This episode is brought to you by the Fish Sauce RPG. Unleash the power of precision. Our RPG, rod positioning gadget, is the ultimate tool for adjusting Scotty or Fulby rod holders.
No more struggles or worn-out tools, just smooth, easy adjustments. Elevate your fishing game and shop the RPG now.
www.fishsauce.com.
And now we got a huge shout out to our next sponsor, Coldwater Strong. Coldwater Strong makes high-quality gear for boat and bank anglers alike, from flasher bumpers and bank fishing leader kits to kill bags and bleed bags. Coldwater Strong has the gear to make you the hot rod in the boat or on the bank. Get your Coldwater Strong products at local fishing retailers like Bob's Sporting Goods in Longview, Anglers Unlimited, previously Angler West in Woodland, and Fisherman Marine and Outdoor. Go visit their website at www.coldwaterstrong.com. Hey, what's going on, guys? Clayton Dietz here with the Wet Net Podcast. I just wanted to take a second to talk to you guys about spinner blades. Are you pretty worn out of running the same old mass-produced blades all the time with paint that won't stick? I highly recommend you take a look at Northwild Outdoors. Northwild Outdoors has been absolutely changing the spinner blade game, man. These blades are made by fishermen for fishermen. Every single blade out their door has been carefully hand painted, and they've been coming up with some killer patterns, ridiculously vibrant colors, and high quality paints that won't chip after you get a couple fish on them. Go check them out at Anglers Unlimited in Woodland, Bob's Sporting Goods in Longview, or check out their website at www.northwildgear.com. What's going on, everybody? Welcome back for another episode of the Wet Net Podcast. Before we get too deep into this, I want to take just a quick second and shout out Anglers Unlimited. They are being super gracious, letting us record here tonight in the store. If you guys haven't been here yet and checked them out, you got to come check it out. It is a super killer place. They have everything you need. They got fresh bait. They got cured bait. They got all the spinning glues you could ever want. They got super awesome vendors, and man, it's killer right now. But thank you guys for letting us record here. Thank you. Tonight, I'm super excited about this episode. We're sitting here with Jarrod Kirkley and Chris Turvey. Jarrod Kirkley is the owner and what do you call yourself? The mastermind of spinner blades and of Northwild Outdoors, is it?
Northwild Outdoors, yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. And Chris Turvey with Columbia River Guide Service. How you guys doing, man? Thank you for coming on.
Really good. Thanks for having us.
Yeah, thanks for having us, man.
Yeah, absolutely. I would like to take a second also to shout out a couple sponsors. So we got Fish Sauce. We got Adam with his RPG. If you guys haven't got your hands on those yet, those are super slick for your Scotty slip discs and getting those tightened down. Ken Vellante with Coldwater Strong, obviously with his flasher bumpers and all of his bank fishing stuff. He's got a ton of cool stuff. And we have a super exciting announcement also. Jarrod has been gracious enough to take us on as a sponsor as well. So Northwild is one of our Wet Net sponsors. So thank you, man. I really appreciate it.
Yeah.
Excited to do some giveaways and we're going to do some really cool stuff.
Yeah, for sure.
So let's go ahead and get this rig rolling, man. So Jarrod, we're going to start with you.
Okay.
Let's get a little introduction, kind of a backstory on kind of who you are, what you did before you were painting blades.
Okay. Yeah, so I've been in the screen printing graphic arts business for 20 years. And it's been a long journey with that, and I've learned a lot of stuff with, colorways and ink colors and processes to lay down inks and paints and, what colors jive together and what colors don't, being in that business, especially in the graphic arts and screen printing business. Color will either make or break you,
Yeah.
It's one of those things that you can design and release something that you think that's just going to be a #1 seller and you sell 2.
Yeah. A lot of trial and error.
A lot of trial and error, a lot of years of doing it and just learning. There's no better teacher than trial and error.
Right.
You let the public tell you, what they want to see and
you let the fish tell you too.
Yeah. And so to get off of that, screen printing, it's been a great business to me, but it's a thing of the past. And we've moved on to the fishing industry and the support we've got from people, man, like since we've started, we're a really young company. We started in 2017, just starting to dabble with it. And then COVID came around and everybody was stuck home and not working, and I kind of mastered the art and just started, pushing things out to buddies and started using the stuff myself. And we've had like super successful days out there fishing with some of my products, and a couple of my buddies are like, hey, can you make some for my buddy or this or that? The next thing you know, it went from making 10 blades to 20 blades to 100 blades to 1,000 blades.
Yeah.
And
So now you got a whole company.
yeah, now we have a whole growing company. And it really took off in like the end of 2019, 2020. We started mass producing the blades. And when I say mass produce is, by the tens of thousands, we're not doing it by the hundreds of thousands yet.
Right.
And we may never. That's not really our business motto,
Yeah. Yeah.
So we just started producing them, and now, they're starting to go in stores like Anglers Unlimited here, and
Bob's.
And we're getting in some stores out east, and Chris is helping us, get in some stores out there, because a lot of guys are getting a little bugged with me because they can't drive down the street to Yakima or wherever, have access to them. And, long story short, the website, our website, it's out of stock more than it's not.
Right.
And, that's a problem that we're really trying to fix and work on right now. But I think it really made people happy to get them into the stores. We've given Anglers Unlimited here and Bob's thousands and thousands and thousands of packs in the last few weeks.
Yeah.
And
it makes it a little easier for the everyday guy, for the weekend warrior, to get his hands on something.
Right, and both places accept phone orders, and I believe Anglers Unlimited here, you're allowed to order online, so it really made people happy and was able to get them in their hands a lot faster. So.
Yeah, that's awesome. Chris, why don't we take a second too and get a little bit of introduction on you, yourself, and who you are and what you do.
Well, my name's Chris Turvey. I'm
I'm gonna have you scoot just a little closer.
Full-time fishing guide, owner and operator of Columbia River Guide Service. Been doing it a long time. I've invented a lot of stuff. Everything from the rod stations to the rod extensions to the slide locks to the Brad's Evolution. I just love to fish. Pretty much from the mouth of the Columbia all the way up to Brewster.
Yeah.
And so we target salmon, steelhead. I've been in the game for quite a while. Been seeing some of these fisheries come and go, and it's kind of neat to see them kind of transform and change over the years. And this year was no different. I mean, this year up there, we just got done with Spring Chinook at Drano. And, the name of the game was pretty simple. It was these antifreeze Northwild Blades. And got to the point where I just had them on every single rod because they were working. And typically I don't do that. Usually I have 3 or 4 hot colors, and then I would always have one that's looking for that next, what's the next color that they want? Is it red? Is it orange? Pink?
Yeah.
And,
is it a spinner blade, or is it a smile blade, or is it
is it a
super bait or whatever?
Cut plug. And so that was what was really interesting, is at one point for like a week, 10 days straight, every rod had Northwild antifreeze blades on. And that was probably one of the most successful seasons I've had consistently anyway. See, we always talk about zero to hero and then back to zero, and that's how it is. Like one day you'll limit, you're like, oh man, I'm in coast mode, good to go, got it figured out, go out the next day. The guys that didn't catch them the day before now are catching them. You caught them the day before, and now you're not. Yeah. And so basically it's just kind of in survival mode, just to not be that boat that doesn't catch them.
Yeah.
And
I remember vividly on it might have been your sobriety anniversary trip when you had Buzz in the boat. I was trolling right next to you on that on the road side, not the freeway side. But I was like, hey Chris, you looked over. We're in the piss and rain, and I'm like, those Northwild blades are a game changer, because I went from zero to hero in a matter of a day running those blades. So
when Jarrod first got them to me, I mean, we were doing okay, but I noticed right away that they just pop more, and I think that's something maybe he will or won't talk in this podcast about what he changed, but there's definitely something different, because you hold them side by side with another blade, these pop a lot more. And you'll hold them under UV light and you can see it. So, I mean, that right there tells you. And that was kind of the name of the game. And we just wrote it out as long as we could. And, tomorrow I got my last day up there, and sure enough, all 5 rods will have antifreeze Northwild Blades.
Yeah.
And so
let's take a second. Let's kind of talk about how you guys came together. Was it just like a word of mouth thing? Was it how did that go?
Well, so for a long time, I'm kind of a gear junkie. That's one of the things. Like, me and Buzz Ramsey were really good friends. We fished, fished together. And one of the things we like to talk about, or I like talking about the old Lure Jensen days, and just all the different colors, and and all. I love hearing all his stories about just tackle and Pacific Northwest tackle. And so now it's no different. If you got time, you scroll on social media, and everybody wants to put their best colors and their best work on the internet. And so I look back and I see all these different companies doing their thing. They all have their own style. They all look great. They're all doing a great job. But Jarrod has always, that guy can paint. Custom plugs. He can paint anything.
Yeah.
And I still, to this day, I'll say it, I think he's the best painter in the Pacific Northwest, hands down. So when I was looking for somebody to team up with, I called him. I think you remember that conversation.
Yeah.
We weren't, by the time we got off the phone, we wanted to work together.
Yeah,
So.
yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah.
That's super cool. So obviously you do spinner blades. You do custom plugs. What else? What else do you kind of have your hands in right now?
Lots of stuff.
Lots of stuff. Don't want to say too much.
Yeah. So with Northwild, we haven't scratched the surface yet. I'll leave it at that.
Yeah.
We're getting into a lot of things. We don't want to get into too many things that's going to take us away from what we do best.
Yeah, you don't want to spread yourself too thin.
Right. I will say with the spinner blade market is what I meant by we haven't scratched the surface yet. We're working on things, and that's why it's so awesome to have Chris here as my main tester.
Yeah. Well, I was having a conversation with a buddy the other day, and it kind of got brought up that I was going to have Chris and you on the podcast, and he had made a comment. He's like, it doesn't matter what it is. It seems like when you get somebody like Chris to back you, the product's going to soar.
Right.
Then when you get products with quality like Northwild, it's going to skyrocket.
Yeah.
And I think people are realizing that. Now, obviously, people are realizing that with how fast they're flying off shelves.
Yeah, and neither one of us, I'm not a rich man. He's not a rich man. We're not trying to prove nothing for money or anything. I love fishing, and I will take this to the grave with me. This is my baby right here. I love the best part about spinner blade making is 7, 8 o'clock, I'm a dad to identical twin daughters, and sometimes when the house gets a little rowdy with girls, dad slips out to the garage and a new pattern's born.
Yeah.
And when that pattern's born, before anybody ever sees it, it most likely will go to him, and depending on what fishery we have at the time, he'll fish the heck out of it, and next thing you know, he's an honest dude. He'll tell me, hey, that thing's dog shit, you know what I mean? Or it's like, hey, we couldn't keep them off the rods, and that's how we determine what goes on our website. And I'll be completely honest with you, when we first started, I was making every pattern under the sun, making patterns that's already been made by the OGs of the game, and things like that. And it just wasn't sitting right with me to make all these patterns that I didn't test or never ever seen catch a fish when somebody's going to buy them and give me $1,500 in one night of selling spinner blades.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so we had 900 products on our website at one time.
Oh, jeez.
And I actually pulled 3/4, about 70% of them off of the website, and only sold proven patterns.
Right.
Tried and true. That's it, man.
Yeah.
And we actually recently just pulled a bunch more that were just kind of just like idlers, what we call them, And when we released all those blades to Chris to start testing at Drano, it was kind of a little project to see what would happen, The next thing you know, but we were both getting heat, like, wait, where'd you get those? Where is this? You know what I mean? He's like, they ain't released yet. And then we released them, a few days later. And, everybody got their hands on them, and I can't tell you how many success stories and hundreds and no bull crap.
Yeah.
thousands of fish pictures.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's
And,
crazy.
you know,
And what a better place, what a better fishery to release something like that, because you get a target-rich environment, but you also get the challenges that come with it.
yeah,
Chris
me
would
and
know.
him got to talk about that a lot, really. There's no better place to test than there
Mhm.
because you're in a high concentration of fish.
Right.
You're in a high concentration of fishermen,
Mhm.
and you're in a high concentration of spinner blades.
Right.
All in one little
Yeah.
circle, right?
Yeah.
And those fish are going to tell you what they want in a hurry.
Yeah.
And it doesn't really take a professional fisherman or a beginner, because these professional guys like him
Mhm.
was catching fish.
Mhm.
There's a lot of guys that's first trip at Drano that was using those blades that were doing just as
Yeah.
good.
Well, it wasn't my first trip at Drano, but I went 3 trips blanked in there. I had a couple takedowns and nothing materialized. But as soon as I started taking those Northwild blades, they started materializing into fish.
Yeah.
So that says something, obviously. Just wanted to commit to it more. They liked it.
Yeah.
And it didn't matter what I was running for baits. I was changing everything out, and the blades made a difference. So. Yeah, absolutely. You said we're on the tail end of that the Drano and Wind River fisheries. How do you feel about giving a little bit of a recap, just kind of how that went as a whole?
Yeah. So every year I sit back and go, man, this was the craziest year. And I've been saying that like every year for like the last 15 years.
Yeah.
Well, I started fishing there in 2000, but this year is absolutely no different. I mean, there was fist fights, multiple fist fights. There was, tickets wrote. There was one of my clients had a heart attack in the boat.
Oh no.
Another old timer that's been there since the start of time, which I still haven't figured out his name. I wish I knew. He actually sadly limited out. Went by me and said, "Well, that's my 2." Him and his buddy. We're out of here. We'll see you tomorrow. I was like, okay. And when he got dropped off to go get the truck, he actually had a heart attack going to the truck.
Yeah, that's horrible.
It was just one thing after another. Every day it's like you didn't know what was going to happen, and the weather was no different. There's a lot of rain, this was the lowest water we've ever seen that I've ever seen in the spring. Usually it's all the way up in the bushes. This year was like low, like the lowest you ever see that pool. So that was kind of weird.
Mhm.
As far as fishing, it was still a 1 fish limit. Never went to 2. I'm glad because there's maybe a couple days it could have been.
Yeah.
But overall, it was a good season. It was, I think you can ask any regular there that fishes it. It was, you didn't really know what was going to happen.
Yeah.
It was like, we got them yesterday and now today's a new day. And the baits that worked yesterday, may or may not be working today. And I seen that, some really good guides and fishermen that whacked them the day before got blanked the next day, and it was just a roller coaster, and then they put the new buoy in there, and so there's a lot of talk about that. I've been talking with some of the game wardens about that. They asked my input, and I kind of just told them, man, do away with it, and this is the only fishery where they limit the boat guys.
Right.
This isn't the first time that there's bank and boat conflict in the hole. Just do away with the whole thing. Let everybody know, if you assault somebody by casting leads or plugs into someone's boat, the cops are going to be called, and eventually, after a couple guys go to jail, it probably will, figure itself out. But,
Right.
it's just a lot of conflict. There's some days I'm just thinking to myself, God, why am I doing this? But then, you look back and, 3 triples, 10 doubles, 109 fish, in 24 days. It's like, yeah, that's why we do it.
Right.
All the smiles, the happy, the first salmons, the first springers, how good they are. And, I know a lot of guys that fish the lower river, 10, 12 days that still haven't got a fish.
Yeah.
And so that's why we do it.
Drano's definitely one of those places that's got some super high highs and it's got some super low lows. Like when it's good in there and it's fun, it's like a big party. Everybody's hooting and hollering and having a good time. And when it's rough, or even sometimes when it's good but it's a shit show, like you're gonna have the fist fights, you're gonna have people yelling.
Yeah.
It's all just a risk you take going in there. But yeah. So Jarrod, one thing that I really wanted to touch on was was you had made a post on Facebook just a couple weeks back about some guys that are kind of complaining about the availability of the blades.
Yep.
I kind of wanted to touch on that as to why these were kind of tough to get their hands on, like because they're not machine painted. You hand paint all of these. Let's go into that a little bit.
Yeah, so it's another thing that we're working on. You know, I say it and say it again. You know, we're a young company, and we hand paint every last one of them.
Yeah.
You know, and people don't realize. You know, like I'm not painting like 60 blades and trying to put them on the public, you know, for sale.
Right.
As a lot of people, they think, well, I seen a guy comment the other day on there, and he's like, you need to paint more than 100. I'm like, I do 1,000 in my sleep. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Most of the time, you know, I got 1,000 done by the time people are having breakfast. You know, I get up super early in the morning, and by noon, you know, I've already got 1,000 blades ready to clear coat. You know, but you know, to back up a little bit, the process, stuff like this, you know, they have to be taped.
Yeah.
So we tape every last one of them by hand. We put them on the racks. We use a special prime ring process. That's why our blades don't chip.
Mm-hmm.
The paint don't come off of these.
Yeah.
And, you know, I don't mention names and never will, you know, but a lot of the spinner blades that you see on the market, you get a fish or two and the paint's coming off.
Right.
And we pride ourselves on quality, man. You know, the quality of these are unmatched.
Yeah.
You won't ever see me going around bragging I'm the best. It's not me.
Right.
I stay humble, and I let the public tell me how cool I am. You know?
That's right.
I don't go around telling people how cool I am.
Yeah.
So that's one thing you'll learn about me right off the bat. But we use a special primering process. We use a special paint and curing process, and then we use a special clear coating process and curing process again. So, you know, by the time I've touched this blade 6, 8, 10, 12 times, and a process that takes 5 days, you know.
Yeah. Is that how long it takes for one of these from start to finish?
From start to finish, it won't go in the pack for 5 days.
Gotcha.
And I will get in a little bit of detail about some of the paint stuff. You know, I don't talk about my secrets. I get 30 messages a day from people saying, hey, how do I get the antifreeze on the blade? Hey, what kind of paint do you use? Our paint is specially formulated. I paid big money to have this paint made. It's proprietary to us.
Right.
You're not going to buy it. So for people to ask us, you know, what paint we're using, they wouldn't even have a chance to even buy it.
Right.
It's designed and made by a big, large, you know, paint company that's really popular, but it's proprietary to us. We paid to have that UV pop like it does in those colors. You know, it's the brightest color on the market.
Yeah.
And you know, our candies are candy and our paints are paints. But to answer your question, yeah, like it's start to finish 5 days. If you don't paint the blades properly, you know, you'll cause something called spoiling the paint. What a lot of people don't realize about spoiling the paint, we live in the Pacific Northwest, and what's our worst enemy? Humidity.
Yeah.
And any good painter knows that if humidity gets the best of you, your paint's not going to stick.
Right.
And you're going to have problems. And if it's not cured properly and you clear coat over it, your paint starts gassing out, and the paint gas will get trapped under the clear coat and start spreading on the whole surface of the paint.
Yeah.
And we'll start lifting that clear coat. But the problem is you can't see that to the human eye.
Right.
You won't see that until it has a hard impact from a fish or a net or gets stepped on in the boat.
Yeah.
And then that's when the problems cause.
Gotcha.
Start
Yeah.
causing them. So.
Yeah, I know there are some blade manufacturers, and I'm not going to name drop either, but I mean, I've had days where I don't even get touched, and throwing like buoy 10 or something like that, real strong currents, paint's chipping just from strong current.
Yeah.
And it's like, that's ridiculous. I can't believe that.
You know, and nowadays it's sad, you know, the people go around with the attitude of, oh, it's a $2 piece of fishing tackle. Well, it's my $2 fishing tackle. You know, it's you work, you drive a log truck, you said, you make your paycheck every week. When you go buy fishing tackle, you're not trying to get home and the paint's falling off in the bag. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And there's a lot of stuff out there that's like that, you know. It's sad because like nobody prides themselves on quality no more. And everybody just wants to hurry up and make a buck, and most places nowadays, they jump into the game, they make a buck, and they jump out.
Yeah.
And like, we're here to stay, and we want the customer to see that what we make is quality, because we're going to be here for years.
Yeah.
So we're not going nowhere.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. It's super cool. It's super cool, especially now that you're a sponsor, to be working with a company that takes that kind of pride in their product. A lot of places, like you said, they'll just kind of slap something together and ship it out the door, and they're making the money. But you guys actually care about what you're putting out, and you actually want people to catch fish, which is awesome. Like you said, you're in it for the love of the fishing, and if you can help, a handful of people catch more fish, and more power to you. That's awesome.
Like, I'm one of these guys. These guys are lifelong fishermen. They fish every day. They're guides. I'm not a guide. But I fish every chance I get, and I haven't got to fish as much as I like to this year. But it's
that's what happens when you're on fire.
It's one of those things. But I do fish a lot in fall, because in winter and spring is when I'm in production, really, and trying to keep up with the game for the sales that are coming. But I do usually take about somewhere in the middle of July. I will make my last production run, and by then we usually have enough for fall to keep the fishermen happy. And this year we doubled that run, so we're already working. We've already been working for several weeks for fall. We are supplying these guys and Bob's and some other stores with them some final spring release stuff, but we're already working with thousands and thousands of blades for fall. But I take a couple weeks off and fish fall hard, and take the family out, and we have a lot of fun. But as far as like what you asked, I don't want to feel like I'm avoiding the question. The website is out of stock more than it's in stock.
Right.
And that's not because, like I said, people say we don't make enough. It's not that. It's people are buying too many.
Yeah.
And it's just one of those things that as a young company, it takes lots and lots of money to keep stock. I'm ordering 30, 40,000 blades at a time.
Right.
It's a lot of money to get those.
Yeah.
And just to get the metal blanks, and then we have supplies to paint, and I'll give you an idea, our paint's like $350 a gallon, and our clear coat's like $530 a gallon.
Yeah.
We don't use nothing but the best.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
And so we're out of stock all the time, but it's not because we don't make enough. It's because they're popular, and there's thousands of fishermen buying them.
Yeah, absolutely. And even in the fall, the last handful of years with this Pro Troll and 360 game, the spinners and stuff have really kind of been exploding in the fall too. So you're going to be staying nice and busy, I think, because the more these get out there, guys are going to want them in the fall too. It's not just a Drano Lake thing. Like, these are going to kick ass year round.
Oh yeah, they do. Like last year, somebody, I go out there and I fish. Like I said, I fish with the best of them, man. I'm out to the mouth of the Cowlitz. Got my 2 daughters and wife and my girl's boyfriends in there, and we're fishing, and we're just using my blades and just smoking fish all around the guides and stuff, and most of them are my friends, so we're having a good time out there and stuff. But people last year, man, they're turning me in for illegal guiding, calling the cops on me, this, that, because it's just like, I don't know, man. It's just crazy. The blades work great in fall too.
Yeah. I'm honestly surprised I haven't been turned in for illegal guiding, because I've got an 18-foot open sled, but I've got my boat all outfitted with the fish fighter. So it looks like a really small guide boat.
Yeah.
Then sometimes I'll have 4 dudes plus myself, and it looks like I'm running a guiding ring, and I'm surprised somebody hasn't said something.
Yeah, and to answer your question about fall, I'm a color guy, so like a lot of our days last fall, and I will give my electronics, a lot of credit. I run Panoptics and Live Scope, and I have all that stuff. When I have $13,000-$14,000 of electronics on my boat. And, when I come out of like Rainier, I'll point the nose of my boat at the mouth of the Cowlitz and turn on my Panoptics and my side scan and my forward view and my Live Scope. And it's kind of like a 360-degree floating radar, and once I find the fish, You know,
You beat up on
I
them.
have the access to every single color known to man. Like, if you've seen the boxes in my boat, I probably have 600 colors in there.
Yeah.
And, you know, one thing I wanted to touch on is things like OG patterns, like Mexican hat, right? So there's
Mexican hats, Broncos,
Broncos.
the traditional
So there's
stuff.
there's a little like science behind it. A lot of people don't understand. So like a Mexican hat, the 3 colors that are on there, red, yellow, and green, right? If you're doing it right, flow red, yellow, and green. Those are the 3 colors that salmon love most.
Right.
And a Mexican hat kind of takes the guessing game out of what color to use. And that's why that blade was designed. You know,
Right.
so some of the OGs in the game designed that for that very reason. No matter if the Chinook are targeting green that day, well, there's green on it. If they're targeting yellow that day, there's yellow. If they're targeting red, there's red, you know. So it kind of takes the guessing game out of all of it. But I will say this, like, if you really know your colors and you're not fishing a Mexican hat and you can hone in, like when you have 600 patterns, you know, to pick through and say, you know what, all right, I'm running 6 rods today. I'm going to put red, green, yellow, you know, whatever on them, and you start building a pattern. Once you find that pattern, your color is going to outfish that traditional Bronco Mexican hat style blade, because, you know, those blades, people like to say, you know, there's no other blade known to man that catches many fish as a Bronco or a Mexican hat. Well, that's because the variation of how many people are using it.
Right. Yeah.
You know, so if you have, you know, 5,000 people running that pattern, you know, the odds are you're going to catch more fish on that pattern.
Yeah.
But yeah, so if you can, you know, get your pattern detailed in color and actually find what the fish wants, running our blades is key, because we make all these different designs. You know, like we make a lot of the same designs, like the ones that we designed for Turvey for Drano this year. Same antifreeze, half 50-50 yellow, but the tips were purple, green, red, you know, orange, blue, whatever you want to run. So like if you can pinpoint that color, you're going to have it made.
Yeah. I was lucky enough to get my hands on some of those the last shipment that Bob's got. And within a half hour, because I lived like 15 minutes from Bob's. So within a half hour of them making that post that they were there, I was in there. Yeah. And there were guys already standing at the shelves. I was like, this is ridiculous, you know. But yeah. One thing I wanted to ask you about is size selection, because you have the what size is the 1.5s?
Yeah, we have our 1.5 hex, which is an actual salmon blade. It's not a kokanee blade. It's heavier, and it's cupped different, and it's designed for salmon. And when we have a 3.0, and then we have a 3.5.
Okay, gotcha. So when you're in a specific fishery, whether it be Drano or Wind River or Buoy 10 or wherever you're trolling these blades, how do you kind of make that decision as to what sizes you want to be running?
So I'm always a small blade guy. I've seldom ever run 3.5s. Basically Buoy 10, pretty much, maybe mouth of the Cowlitz at times. I run 3.5s. Other than that, I'm always a 3, and the reason being, it's always easier for me to speed up than it is to slow down. And I'm an east side guy, and I feel like when we're above the dam, some of those fish are just kind of a little more lethargic. They've been beat up on. One of the tricks that we do, mouth of the Klickitat and out in front of Drano and whatnot, is being able to get our gear to work the best we can, going as slow as we can. When we take that same technique and go downriver, mouth of Lewis, mouth of the Cowlitz, it works really, really well, because instead of having this gear zipping by them at 1.9, 2 miles an hour in a big 3.0 with, you know, tandem 4/0 hooks and a big hoochie, you know, flopping, all of a sudden now they see this little tiny bait that's just in the strike zone longer. It's darting and dashing, and it works really well. So I'm always a 3.0. I haven't really played with the 1.5s. I know some guys that did really well on them, but I'm also running the Brad's Evolution, and so I typically always run that in the middle hole. The middle hole on that flasher is going to give you a little bit more thump and allow you to go slower. So you pair that middle hole in the Evolution with a 3.0, and now all of a sudden 1.5, your rod's thumping really good. You're in the strike zone longer, and I'm a firm believer that these fish it's just something different, that they're not used to seeing. So
yeah. So you played a big role in designing these, or did you design them yourself?
I designed it, yeah.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
So one thing, I actually haven't had a chance to run them yet. I'd like to try to get my hands on them. I personally, I usually prefer a little shorter of a bumper, like a 18 or even a little less. One thing that seems really cool about these is it makes that bumper length just a little bit less crucial because your adjustment is right here on the flasher. So what kind of went into designing that?
So I'm trying to think what year it was. It was about 12 or 13 years ago. I had some friends fishing Drano, and they're like, man, there's this new technique. You're not going to believe it, dude. We're smashing the fish. And they talk about this skateboard flasher with it. It has to have this fin. And they're running them on downriggers, and it's all super baits. Nobody thought about putting a spinner behind it, or a prawn spinner, or a smiley blade. It was all original banana super baits. And I was like, no way, dude. That's not. Just go out there with the mag lip and tomorrow and let me know. He calls me up. He's like, yeah, you're right. I limited out on mag lips. There's just a bunch of fish. It's not that big of a deal.
Yeah.
A couple days later, you're like, dude, this is the new thing. I'm telling you. I was like, and I was up on the reach, and so I was like, okay, well, I'm coming down there. I didn't have downriggers, so I was like, well, crap, I better get my hands on some of these. I had 2 flashers, 2 super baits. Never ran a super bait in my life. No secret concoction with different scents. It was tuna right out of the can. I had, back in those days, I fished a lot of herring. I put out a couple herring rods, a couple of my best mag lips, and the 2 bow rods. I was like, well, yeah, probably about 20 inches from the lead to the flasher, somewhere in there. I knew short leader, so I made kind of a short leader, and we pegged him with 16 ounces of lead. We went 24 on this one and 25 on that one. Long story short, we didn't go 50 feet, caught a fish, 50 more feet, caught another fish, and so everybody in the boat wanted more of those. I didn't want them to know I was this rookie on the technique and only had 2 flashers and 2 super baits. So we took turns on those 2 rods. 18 bites later, 8 fish in the boat. Out of the 4 rods in the back, only had 1 measly drive-by. So my next group, I called them. I was like, I don't care what time you show up. We need more of these and more of these. You guys, they were coming from Yakima, so they went east. I went west. We scrounged up enough gear to be the first boat in Drano with 6 of these in the water, and it was not long. You can ask anyone that was there at that time that was taking turns on 2 downriggers. Are like, yeah, let's run more of these rods.
Yeah,
we're in 27 feet of water. We don't need a downrigger.
Yeah,
and so that was kind of the start of it. That season, Drano had I heard a number like 40,000 extra fish.
Oh, jeez.
We were having 50, 60 bites a day. I tried everything, big hooks, little hooks, treble hooks. I even went back to mono, tight drags, short rods. We were just losing fish after fish, and that's where, I was like, man, I wonder if it's the flasher. And so we started playing around with disconnecting them from the flasher, and instantly we could tell that you could fight the fish better. And we felt like it was definitely helping keep the fish on the hooks because you're back into the rod. And, back then we didn't know to just keep trolling. I think now the general public's learned to just keep the boat in gear and tow them around. And I have a lot of clients that tell me, that this is a lot funner fighting this fish because you slow down. It's just me and the fish. I wasn't just sitting there just reeling on this rod that's hunkered over and didn't know if it was still there or not.
Yeah.
So, and that's and then the adjustment, I kind of just stumbled across that, just trial and error. And the reason why it adjusts is because the lower down and from the nose you go, essentially is creating a lead edge that's catching that water, where every other flasher is getting drug from the front and they're reluctant on the tail fin to make it do it. So there's a certain speed you have to go in order to make it work.
Yeah.
This one here, the front of it's catching the water, making it dive. So
yeah, that's awesome. So real quick, so let's assume you're talking to a real dummy, like a brand new 360 fisherman. Yep. What's a really safe basic setup in terms of like bumper length, leader length?
What I usually tell people, if you're mouth of the cowlets, buoy 10, you always want to be in the top hole, always. And longer bumper, the better. 24-inch bumper. Anywhere else, all the way up when we're targeting sockeye now with these, middle hole, 20-inch bumper, anywhere from a 24 to a 30-inch leader. And that all depends on the species and what lure. If it later in the fall, we'll go shorter. Springers like them a little bit longer. They want that bait just a little more subtle, not so much action. So 20-inch bumper, middle hole, set it and forget it.
Yeah. No, that's awesome.
Yeah.
So, Jared, you were saying you fish the mouth of the Cowlitz a lot. Do you think we're going to see any fist fights out there like we did at Drano this year? Because last year was my first year really doing that fishery right there, because I've always just been a mouth of the Lewis guy. Yeah. And I was kind of amazed. Like, there's some days it's worse than Drano, because Drano at least has a direction, you know.
Getting
Everybody
worse
here,
year by year.
Yeah.
You know, it seems like the new go-to thing is every single person launches Rainier now, you know. Sometimes, you know, depending on who I have with me and stuff like that, you know, I'll just launch Willow and make the run up there. In my boat, it takes 10 minutes.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
What do you have for a boat, if you don't mind me asking?
I got a 22-foot Raider.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, hard top.
Gotcha.
You know, so with my boat, you know, in the afternoon, you know, if the wind picks up, starts getting chopped, doesn't matter. I can cut through that stuff and head back to Willow, you know. But, you know, in the early season when everybody's still at buoy 10, you know, I definitely will be launching Rainier, you know, and fishing over there. And last couple of years past, you know, a lot of good fishermen that were lifelong buoy 10 fishermen, you know, that's always been down there, have actually started passing it up, you know, and up here fishing the mouth of the Cowlitz when nobody's really out there, you know. And like August 10th, you know, where everybody's at buoy 10 down there grinding, you know, and stuff. And, you know, with the last couple of years, with everything being marked selective down there, a lot of people are like, hey, you know, the money, the gas, the time, the clients, man, I'll just fish right here, you know. And so it's getting really, really busy. And between the guides and the sport fishermen alike, you know, there's a lot of problems being caused out there, and lots of people fighting and arguing, especially at the boat ramp. You know, Rainier's a little tough to get in and out of, you know, with that block dock right there. And people are, you know, trying to launch in the middle and get their sleds out. Other people with big boats like me, like, I need the dock. I have to have the dock. I can't, you know, launch in the sand. And there's just a lot of chaos, man. It's sad to see in the last few years, you know, because fishing was like a good old boy sport, you know. It's something you do with your dad, your brother, your best friend, your wife, your kids, you know, and you go out there and you have fun, and it's fishing. It's supposed to be fun, you know what I mean? And people are making it like a competition, like a drunken football party, you know what I mean, or something. It's like fighting over which team's going to win. So much competition out there in the fishing world now, you know. It's like, even with guys that's been friends for years, you know, like, you know, I'll go out and fish, you know, and kill 2 or 3 fish or whatever. Next thing you know, one of my good buddies like, I got 6. Well, you know, it's like, are we friends or are we competitors? You know what I mean? It's like, it's turned into that everywhere. And I guess, you know, it doesn't really matter where you're at, whether you're at the mouth of the Cowlitz or Drano, you know, people are just, they're in competition. And for the most part, I think that it kind of just boils down to, we're all fighting over the same fish because there's not a lot of them between the seals and the lack of hatchery production.
Well, and, you know, I think,
else, you know?
I honestly, I think kind of a big part of it too could be, you know, the growth of social media. Everybody's got to have an image, you know, like, I got to look like a fucking fish killer, you know. It's just, it's ridiculous. Why not just go out and relax and enjoy yourself? Like, I really enjoy getting away from the crowd and you go troll by myself. Like, there's still fish going through there, you know. Like, I'm not going to name drop some of these spots, but there's places you can get away and still be productive.
Right. Yeah, you don't have to be at the mouth of the Cowlitz or Drano or the mouth of the Lewis, or, you know, you can go. Some of my best days, you know, have been the geek trolling 60 feet of water at the bottom. Like, my wife, she caught a 32, was her personal best fall Chinook, 32 pounds, you know, like 3 years ago. And we were like downstream of Rainier somewhere and like 57 feet of water, and I'm ticking the bottom, dude. And next thing you know, our rod berries, and we limited the boat in like 30 minutes on big fish. And it's all just find the fish. There's a big river out there. There's fish everywhere. I mean, look at the, you know, you have 100, 200,000 fish coming through. I mean, those fish are everywhere. They're not, they're not in one river. They're not in
Yeah.
the mouth of one river. They're not on one shoreline.
Yeah. I mean, does it help kind of having the concentrated fish? Like, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Like,
Oh,
there's
of
a
course.
reason everybody's staged up there. But
Yeah.
I one reason I really like getting away from the crowd like that is because I can fish confidently. I'm not dependent on how fast the guy in front of me wants to troll. I can troll as fast as I want to and put my gear where I want it to without being worried about tangling with somebody else or, you know.
Right. I mean, here's one for you. You know, you launch in the morning, you know, and say rainier, right?
Mhm.
And you have some of the Northwest top guides, you know, that people look up to and stuff, and you know, you have a lot of what you mentioned about fish concentration. You know, you have a lot of newbies or, you know, young fishermen and stuff, and they look and they go, oh, why so and so going that way, or what? The mouth of the Cowlitz is right here, you know, and that's fish concentration is what determines your catchability of how good of an angler you are, you know.
Mhm.
Like, if you're a new angler, you probably really want to be in the areas of fish concentration, you know, because like you have better opportunity and a better chance. But if you're a seasoned angler, you kind of know what you're doing, you know what to look for, you know what to use, you know how fast to go,
Yeah.
water conditions. You don't need to be in those spaces. You know, you can.
Yeah.
Go find
Well,
your
and
fish.
having good electronics kind of helps too. But you know, guys were fucking fish up before electronics were a huge thing.
Oh yeah.
So you know, it's kind of a give and take kind of deal.
Yeah,
with it.
I have buddies that are older guys and younger, both. You know, wash their hands with the live scopes, and you know, I was one of the when the Pacific Northwest Sportsman Show had the live scope when it first come out. I was like number 3 or 4 dude in line to buy it, right? And at the time in Portland, right there, it was when you buy it, you didn't get it installed for like 9 weeks or some odd
really?
number because they were so backed up with sales, right? And my first year using it, I didn't even know how to use it.
Right.
Like, I turned it on a few times, and I'm like, yeah, this thing's junk. Dude, it's a waste of $2,500, right?
Yeah.
And buddies were getting them, and we're talking back and forth and starting to learn how to use it. And, you know, once you learn how to use it, it's a really good tool, you know, because you can kind of watch, like, for instance, you know, if we were running that blade right there, you know, you can watch fish come up and nose it and then back down. You're like, doesn't like that. Well, we're going to switch to that.
Yeah.
You know, and you can watch them come up and nose it and then commit to it or whatever, you know. So it's a good tool as far as that. But do you need it? No.
No. Yeah.
Not at all. You know, he don't have one.
Yeah. Yeah. The biggest place I noticed the difference was at the Wind River, and that's a fishery that I'm a little bit less confident in than Drano because it's so snaggy, and it's a little bit tougher of a fishery than Drano in terms of, you know, just being able to get on fish. Like,
Right.
the concentration isn't quite what Drano is. They're a little bit more spread out. But
Yeah.
my first trip out there that I had the live scope, I was able to see, like, I could see a tree, or I could see this, or I could see that, and I was able to motor up over it, drop it right back down, and I'm fishing 100 times more effectively just because I'm spending less time snagged.
Yeah.
So,
Me personally, it's made me a better fisherman.
Mhm.
You know, but like I said, I use it for certain things. I let the fish talk to me, and after I kind of see, you know, what's going on, I don't sit there and just stare at it all day, you know, because it'll really ruin your day. Like, I've had days, dude, where I'm just watching fish come up, back down, come up, like going through 50 colors of spinners, and you're like, what is going on, you know? And it's just sometimes the pressure on the fish those days, you know, is just different, and they just don't want to play, you know.
Yeah.
That's why size can be a really big game changer too, you know. Like what he was talking about, 3.0s, it's kind of like a new secret in the lower river to run smaller blades too. Like, I don't want to give up all the secrets and stuff, but, and you know, nor do I know all the secrets, but as far as like smaller blades grow, 3.5s are starting to fade out, and I'll be honest with you, because like 3.0s, even in the lower river, 1-to-1, they're out fishing 3.5s.
yeah.
Getting in high pressure areas where you get full sun, like in fall, beating down, you have 70 boats at the mouth of the Cowlitz. I'll drop my troll speed down, put on a 1.5, and just drag it through there with my rod, not even thumping.
Yeah.
As long as I can see my flasher on my live scope actually working with a 1.5, and the rods fold. You know, they're like, what's this guy doing? We're playing with color. We're playing with size. You know, it's super important. You know, you see a lot of fishermen nowadays. They just think that spinner blades, super baits, you know, anything, that it's just a catch-all hook and go. You know what I mean? It's definitely not. If you want to be a good fisherman, you really got to put in the work and the time.
Yeah. Well, and you gotta have options. You know,
you can't be afraid to play with things.
Yeah, you can't be afraid to play with colors. You can't be. I mean, there's even some days that super baits are the shit. You know, like
right, yes.
This isn't gonna be like the once all be all. This is another killer tool to have in your option,
yes.
in your tool belt. You know what I mean? So.
Yeah, we paint thousands of super baits, skinnies, and cut plugs, and spinfish, and I religiously use them all. You know, it's like, obviously I'm a spinner blade guy, but me and him was actually having a conversation about that the other day. Like, and I hear you say it all the time, monkey see, monkey do. You know, if you're out there and say, you know, a Northwild spinner blade ain't working, well, by all means change it. It's like, you know, you might be loyal to the business, but at the end of the day, like, we're out there to catch fish, right?
Yeah.
And so, you know, you got to follow what the fish want, you know, and some of our custom super baits and spinfish.
Yeah.
Dirty.
Yeah. Well, and, you know, if you're going to be loyal to a business, I want to be loyal to a business that wants me to get fish, regardless on if it's with a blade or if it's with a super bait that is like, you know, they want fishermen to be successful. That's what it is.
100%.
So, what? Just out of curiosity, what does kind of the process difference look like in painting like a super bait or a spin fish or a quick fish? What does the difference in the process look like than a blade?
So like when you paint on metal, it's a totally different process. Yeah. Metal is basically, these are painted like you'd paint a car.
Okay.
I'm gonna leave it at
that. Yeah. 10-4. I was looking at your website. I think it was yesterday, and I know you were saying that the website's kind of sold out a lot, but I saw that you do custom painting. Is that still?
We do.
Is that still something you guys do?
Yeah. Right now we're like 5-6 weeks out. You know, so if you were to like get on our website and inquire about, you know, a batch of 100 of these, or you know, a dozen spinfish or super baits or whatever, we're about 5 weeks out.
Yeah.
But we still do it. We get to everybody. I try to tell everybody, you know, if I don't get back to your message the same day or the day after or whatever, we're busy, you know, but I will always get back to them. I answer every email, every Facebook message. You know, we pride ourselves on customer service too. I hear it all the time. People's like, your service is awesome. You know?
Yeah.
Because we try, like, even the other day, you know, a lot of people were like complaining about the website being out of stock, and then they went to Bob's, and a couple of the colors they were after were out of stock, and I'm like, well, let me see what I can do for you, you know, because like I go out to the shop, and when we're packaging these, you know, we always have overruns, busted packs, things that don't make it in the pack. Like, I probably have more spinner blades on the floor of my shop than most people own.
That's hilarious.
Yeah.
That is funny.
But you know, we always have something, and I always try to keep a small stock, you know, because we have to make sure that when the guides need, you know, their product, they need it. They can't wait 10 days, 5 weeks, or whatever, you know, like, especially like Chris at Drano, you know, he leaves a lot of gear in there. You know, he can have a hot blade for 2-3 days in a row and then run out and like, hey, I need that blade now. You know, I can't wait 4 days, 5 days. So
yeah. I don't know about you guys. I was halfway tempted to throw on like 4 ounces of lead and just let a rod back and just circle his boat real quick a couple times, so I could just take
all of his
so I could just get my hands on a couple of these blades. You know what I mean? Like, oh, sorry, you lost 4 of them. Like, no, I'm just kidding. I wouldn't do that. But man, I think we're kind of getting down here towards the tail end of it. We're 52 minutes in, and it's going by quick. One thing I wanted to ask Chris about is our Drano fisheries kind of donezo. What are you doing next? Where are you going? What's next on the menu for you?
Do a little bit of drift boat on the Acma, and then we'll go back downriver below Bonneville for summer Chinook. That's actually turned into one of our favorite fisheries. Big fish, long runs.
Yeah.
And then July 1st, it's back up, you know, Wanapum Dam. That's that whole shit show up there. It's a whole nother one.
Yeah.
It's just like Drano, except for now you have a lot of currents and it, you know, high winds, and but we catch a lot of fish. You know, limits 4 sockeye, 2 Chinook per person. We'll do that all through July.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so that's awesome. That's actually one of the first times I ever heard your name was on one of the old Angler West videos up there, and I took one look at that. I was like, no thanks. Driving from Longview, that ain't something that's worth trying to do.
No, I tell everyone, if you want to go try it, your best bet is to go with someone that's done it before, or book a trip, because unlike Drano, it's not just getting tangled up that you got to worry about. You got to worry about the whitewater and the whirlpools and
safety.
Yeah. It can go south in a hurry if you're not careful. So
yeah, absolutely. You got anything else you want to touch on?
Yeah. So we try to paint patterns for every part of the river. You know, from buoy 10 all the way up to where he's fishing. You know. And like this year, you know, I made a trip with him to Drano. It was a good, successful trip, and we really got to like really hone in on different patterns and things to work on for next year. And, you know, so it's really fun being able to hop in the boat with him and kind of go research what's going on, what the fish like, you know. And like, for instance, like when he goes to buoy 10 this year, like he's going to have a couple handfuls of new things that nobody's ever seen, nobody's ever tried before, that he can test and put them to the work, you know. Let's see. And that's, you know, how a lot of these patterns are born, is, you know, is being able to get out there on the boat and actually test them, because we're not selling blades that don't work, man.
So. Man, that's awesome. Do you have any other sponsors you want to shout out? Do you have anybody? How can people get a hold of you for trips? Kind of that whole deal.
You can call me or text at 509-571-6198, or find me on Facebook, or Chris Turvey on Facebook, or Columbia River Guide Service. As far as sponsors, ProCure always. There's shrimp prawn oil. I did a lot. I ran a lot of that this year. Brad's with the Evolution Flasher. Pretty much the two biggest ones. And of course, Northwild. They were a huge success. Took a lot of the guesswork out. You know, that was one other thing I wanted to add that I didn't get to add. You know, there's a lot of guys that were running smile blades up there, and me included, and we were getting some fish. But what I noticed was these blades were kind of, you weren't getting pecked. You just looked over and the rod was crushed. Right. And that's when I started to notice, okay, we're getting the same amount of bites, but these are putting fish in the boat. Yeah, I'm going to do away with some of these other gears and blade colors that weren't getting committed. And these, we just hardly ever did you see them pecking it. You just looked over and the rod was folded. So
and it helps take some of the guesswork out of it. You know?
And I just had the confidence. Like, we're putting these on. As far as colors, you know, Mr. Clean was obviously the best, but there was, you know, some with the pink tip kind of did, you know, had some good days. But I also want to say we're working on some colors for summer Chinook and summer sockeye. And that's a thing too that's kind of changed up there. Instead of going with their traditional Dodgers and short leaders and hoochies and whatnot for sockeye, we're actually going up there targeting Chinook, but getting sockeye as bycatch by running these same prawn spinners. And so there's a lot of blades that we were working on last year, and now this year I think we're going to be ready to release them for those, you know, those fisheries up there. But
yeah, that's awesome. So we're going to have a lot of cool stuff getting released. That's awesome. Before we get taken off here, we do have a Northwild kind of a giveaway deal. I'm going to make a Facebook post on how you guys can win that. I've just found that's the easiest way, because I'll say something on the podcast and I get my brain goes, nobody knows how to win it. So I'm going to make a Facebook post on how to win all this. You guys get a sweatshirt and a t-shirt. How can people get a hold of you? Just Facebook?
I don't give out my phone number anymore because people call.
I don't blame you.
So you can go to Northwild Outdoors USA at gmail.com. Shoot us an email. You can go to our Facebook page, send us a message. Like I said, we'll always respond.
Yeah, that's awesome. Once again, I want to give a huge shout out to Anglers Unlimited for letting us record here. It's been an awesome space. Super awesome source, even better people. It's been a pleasure being here, man, and I look forward to doing more with them in the future, and hopefully a podcast episode or something down the road.
We'll get together again, man.
Yeah, absolutely. So Jarrod, thank you very much.
Thank you, man.
Chris, thank you.
Absolutely.
It's
Thank
been a
you.
blast. Everybody else, you guys have a happy Memorial Day. Memorial Day weekend's coming up. We got some fishing open this weekend, so you can go kill some fish. And everybody tight lines, be safe, and we'll see you next time. Thank you.
Thank you.